This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel. My great pleasure to have you along as we get into today's discussion on Jack Campbell right quick. But before we get there, friends, what I want to do is just thank everybody that's kind of tuned into the trade deadline discussion over the past few days and now leading into these last couple of days, taking a couple of nights off from broadcasting games just to simply go out and do some stuff with family and enjoy a weekend to myself after what's been an absolutely insane lead up to the trade deadline and then what was a long trade deadline day. Before we get to the actual meat and potatoes of the videos too, though, I want to do the housekeeping notes right quick. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button here on Dolynny TV. We're just at that 11,100 marker, right in about there. We keep bouncing up and below, just depending on who likes what. But that's where we're sitting right now, friends, and I'd love to have you aboard, quite simply put. All right, Jack Campbell. Well, what do we know? We know it's not so good, right? That's kind of where we're going with this right now. Is Jack Campbell all of a sudden has fallen apart again for the Oilers? And I think, based on what I read, obviously, I was at the Calgary Flames game last night, like I said, hanging out with family, doing that. And of course, when the rest of the family's Flames fans and I'm an Oilers fan, it's kind of hard to just say, hey, I'm going to stay home and watch the Oilers game when they all want to go out and enjoy a Saturday night on the town. But when we look at this here, last night was not a good night to be Jack Campbell, and obviously the last couple of games have not been good nights to be Jack Campbell. The Oilers falling 7-5 to the Winnipeg Jets. They were in it the whole way, right? They were down to it all the whole way, and I think too it's an empty netter that makes it 7-5. So Jack Campbell allows a total of 6 goals last night. He's still got a record of 17-9-4. Leon Draisaitl scores a hat trick, but when you look at it, Nick Bjugstad, by the way, scored as well. Jack Campbell still faced 38 shots, .842 save percentage, though. That's where we really struggle. Is again, Jack Campbell's save percentage continues to decline after that 6-game win streak there had started building it back up. Jack Campbell back at that .882 marker and a 3.57 goals against average. I think just a few weeks ago it was down near that 3.32 and starting to get a little bit more respectable based on bottom barrel numbers in the NHL, but now right back there near the bottom at 3.57. And for Jack Campbell, that's pretty rough. So, obviously here, friends, based on the way I interpret things post-trade deadline, and that's why I wanted to thank everybody for tuning into the trade deadline coverage, is post-trade deadline, I do not believe the Oilers can loan Jack Campbell to the AHL Bakersfield Condors. I don't think that's a solution because I don't think it's physically allowed with the salary cap and the way things work. So that's another hard part. And of course, if it is allowed, but they place him on waivers, no one's going to claim him because, and not that I'm saying anyone should, but no one's going to claim him because he would not physically be allowed to play a game the rest of the season in the NHL. That's the way the cap rules CBA is written. So that's unfortunate. There is really the options are very limited other than Jack Campbell just needs to get better, and we need to get more out of Jack Campbell, and he knows that, and obviously that's one good starting point, but he's also known that all season long, and we've known that all season long. And here's the thing too, I don't think we're at a crisis point with Jack Campbell. Obviously we were at a crisis point, everyone thought, with Mike Smith a couple of times, and in his final act as an Edmonton Oilers goaltender, he led us into the third round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I don't think necessarily by any means he was the goalie that lost us that series in a sweep against the Colorado Avalanche last spring summer. So for Jack Campbell, right, is I don't think this is a crisis point year one into the contract where, oh my goodness, the Oilers are going to be doomed for the next several years because of Jack Campbell being in net. And if that's the case, that's where just Stuart Skinner has the reins and you let him roll at a 60-game clip per season and let him be the starter. But for Jack Campbell, I think just this season, just for whatever reason, has not come together for him. And you look at this here, he's got 17 wins, 9 losses, 4 overtime losses. So you're talking about a goalie who has points in 21 out of 30 games he's got a record on. So it's not like he's actually that bad right now, but making a cap hit of $5 million for the physical numbers, the 882 and the 357. That's what's concerning. No shutouts on the year. I don't think a single Oilers goaltender has a shutout this year. And Jack Campbell as well. On any game he's touched for the Oilers on a 5-game losing streak in which the opponent has scored 5, 5, 6, 6, and 7 on those given nights. The game against Columbus, 9.25 goals against average, 5.61 in the game against the Colorado Avalanche, 3.70 in the game against the New York Rangers, and 3.71 in the game against the Detroit Red Wings. So you look at the last 5 games for Jack Campbell here, an 827 save percentage. While it has been ugly over the last 155 shots Jack Campbell has faced. So that's where I think it's getting concerning, right? Jack Campbell was impeccable. Numbers were risky a little bit there during that 6-game win streak for the Oilers a couple of weeks back, but now all of a sudden the wheels have fallen off the bus and things are looking absolutely detrimental to the Oilers' playoff chances here. But again, that's where I think a lot of people just haven't quite tuned into the Stuart Skinner show yet this year. You kind of look at it similar to what Mike Smith did. If Stuart Skinner continues to impress the way he has this season for the Oilers going into the playoffs, I see no reason why Stewie can't just absolutely romp it up and do his thing in the playoffs. There's no reason he can't be an impact player. And obviously, I think at this point, everybody would agree, at least whether for better or worse, Stuart Skinner is the goalie of record in these Stanley Cup playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers, who sit 4th in the Pacific Division, right? This is the other side. We've been panicking about Jack Campbell all season long, and Stuart Skinner has just as many wins as Jack Campbell, 17-17. And you know what? We're sitting solidly in a playoff spot. Stuart Skinner at 288 goals against average, a 912 save percentage for Stewie. So he's been having himself a pretty solid season in his last 5 games, right? He's not allowed more than 3 goals twice, right? The game against Winnipeg and the game against Boston, 301, 302 goals against average in that one. The Columbus game obviously coming in on relief, allowing those 2 goals. Doesn't look so great there, but over his last 5 games, his goals against average is 275 and the save percentage at an 893. But you'd expect once Matthias Ekholm gets more into the lineup, once the Oilers go 12-6, that's, I think, the biggest thing that's going to change things here for the Oilers, is going 12-6 over the next little bit. And I could see Philip Broberg and Brett Kulak rotating in and out of the lineup over the next bit when the Oilers do indeed, if they do, go 12-6. Right now, obviously, Devin Shore's still in the lineup, but you take him out for Evander Kane, you put Klim Kostin back in, you make it 12-6. I think this team looks completely different. Although, again, that's the dangerous part here, is the record indicates the Oilers are a worse team at 12-6 in Jay Woodcroft's tenure than at 11-7. So, friends, again, I guess to wrap it all up, that's just the gist of what I'm trying to say on Jack Campbell, Stuart Skinner, and the Oilers' situation at current following a bad loss last night. But the options are limited with Jack Campbell, and the only real option the Oilers have is to get more out of Jack Campbell. Whether you like it, I like it, anybody likes it or not, it is the case right now for the Edmonton Oilers, is you just got to get more out of Jack Campbell. So that's where we sit going into tomorrow night's action against the Buffalo Sabres. And friends, that's when I will probably catch you. There might be another video up to later today in case the Oilers somehow loan Philip Broberg to the AHL Bakersfield Condors. That's the thing. They did a paper transaction back on trade deadline day. Both Devin Shore and Philip Broberg are the only 2 players on the roster eligible to be loaned to the Bakersfield Condors the rest of the season. So those are your 2 intermingling pieces as we go back and forth trying to get Evander Kane back in the lineup and trying to figure out how to ice 12 forwards at any point the rest of the season. I'm Tyson, Dolynny TV, up on, out of here.